Hey there gang, it is time for a grading video. And this is something I have not done on this channel in a little while, but I have had some recent requests to kind of jailbreak the grading videos and put it back into the active repertoire here on the channel. So we're going to do that today. We're going to grade up a short stack of Swamp Thing comics. So if you like comics, if you like grading, if you like Swamp Thing, stick around. We're going to have some fun. Hey there, Bubby. Welcome to Shanghalla. My name is Duke, and this is a grading video. So yeah, like I said in the cold open there, haven't done one of these for a while. They're not as popular. They don't get anywhere near the hits of the unboxing videos, but I have had a couple of requests recently to start doing these again. So I thought I would. Well, one of the requests was to do some high grade books. So these are not super high grade. Anything like this, these early Swamp Thing books that was in super high grade, 9698, we'd send those off to CGC, I'm sure, and those would be sold on a site called comiclink.com. But these are the books that you would see me do in my unboxing videos. And if you're not aware, what I'm doing there is I'm taking them out of the box, not just to look at them. I'm starting my workday. I grade books for a living every day. The books that we sell on eBay, they come across my desk. I put a grade on it, then I pass the books off to somebody else who does the actual listing and scans the books. And so I got to get the books out of the box in order to grade them. So that's what those unboxing videos are all about. This is what I actually do. The unboxing is just for you. This is what I actually do for, I say for a living. I would say, the grading is probably about 30 hours of my work week or so. And so I just do up a grading sheet like this, very simple, very low tech, just a, sheet of notebook paper with the title, the issue numbers, the grades I've assigned, and then any notes. And we like to put in the description of the eBay listing. Oh, and by the way, the seller name on eBay is .com Comics. That's where these books will end up. That's the company I work for. Or actually, it's a division of the company I work for. The company is actually called Vintage Comic Books LLC. We buy comic books through a website called sellmycomicbooks.com. And then we sell them through .comcomics.com. Oh, well, actually, .com Comics is the name of the retail store, but it's got a website, and it's the name that we use on eBay. So anyway, on eBay, we do high-res scans. We don't do photos, we do high-res scans, but even so, we like to list anything that's not immediately evident on the scan, to list that in the description and make sure folks know what they're getting. So something like this, centerfold detached, top staple, ×2. So the first two wraps on the centerfold are detached at the top staple on this particular issue of Thor, number 141. What else? A half-inch top spine split. That's something, the spine, sometimes you really can't get a good look at that, even on a scan. And then sometimes we will put in things like, a stain or a name in marker on back cover, just because we find a lot of people, they bid using their phone, and so they don't really take a close enough look at the pictures. So we like to really make sure people know what they're buying and list those defects in the description. Again, primarily we're listing the things that you can't really see in the scan, but also just to draw their attention so they don't get the book and go like, oh, I didn't realize that had somebody's name written on the back cover. Well, you didn't look. You didn't look at the picture because you were bidding on your phone. So anyway, that's what that's all about. So I do up this list. I send it to the lister with the books. And I guess that's all I need to say in way of preparation. I hope this lighting setup works okay. I'm just using a normal desk lamp that I normally use. I hope we don't get too much glare. I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments below if, if this doesn't work out for you. So anyway, Swamp Thing here. First run of Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing first appeared in House of Secrets number 92. But that was actually a different character. The Swamp Thing who stars in this series is, in fact, a different character. It's the one that the Alec Holland, maybe not Alec Holland. And so this series, inspired by that other character who looked exactly the same and acted exactly the same and had the exact same origin, but a different character. This series started, it hit stands August 10th, 1972. And it ran for 24 issues until What was it? I'm looking here. I got a little laptop here beside me. May 6, 1976. So those aren't the cover dates. Those are the actual on sale dates I'm quoting there. And so Swamp Thing is something that ended just before I started actively buying comic books on my own. I've had comic books in my life as long as I can remember. There's never a time that I can remember when I did not have a stack of comic books. But it was around 1976 or so that I began actively making my own purchasing decisions with my $2 weekly allowance, which again, 20 cents predates me. I came along about the end of the 25-cent era. So that would buy, 8 comic books. And, comic books back then, a comic book could keep you busy for 40, 45 minutes. It wasn't a quick 8-minute read like it is these days. So anyway, that's it about this series. It's the first 10 issues that are most highly prized because those are by Bernie Wrightson. And we'll take a look inside these books as well. I think the only other thing I need to say in way of preparation is that to kind of set your expectations here is that I take my glasses off. Normally I wear my contacts, but I put my glasses on when I'm grading, and I take them actually off so I can really see close up on these books. And so if you see a sudden close up on something, if the camera zooms right in, that's not just that I'm giving you a chance to take a really close look. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm cropping out the fact that I got the top of my fat head in the camera. My fat, bald head. So that's what that's all about if you see that. So anyway, please like, share, subscribe, comment away, do all the groovy things, and let's not waste any time. So what I do when I grade a book, I first do a quick assessment. If it looks brand new, we're in the near mint range. If it's got maybe 1 or 2 ticks or little minor defects, we're in the very fine range. If it looks like a book that's obviously been read but carefully handled, then we're in the fine range. If you start having some really noticeable defects, we're in the very good range. And then, down from there. And it's sort of funny because the Overstreet price guide used to say that good at 2.0 was the quote-unquote average used comic book. But since the Overstreet first came out in the early 70s, expectations of what a used comic book looks like have really changed. And I don't think that verbiage is actually in the price guide anymore. But anyway, it's about a 7.0, a fine, very fine, that is, for most people, particularly investors, kind of the rock bottom of what they're willing to accept. Now, for somebody like me, who's more of an accumulator than a collector and certainly not an investor, there are really 2 grades, good enough and not good enough. And it depends entirely on what the book is. These would be, in my estimation, super good enough. I mean, anything a 6.0, 5.5, I'd be happy to have. I've got a couple of these issues, but not the full run myself. And so anyway, these have nice high gloss, so that is good. And we can see right away that we're in the very fine range because we've got a few defects. So it's clearly not as high as a near mint. But we're going to try and take a look here. And we'll get a little bit of glare, and that's actually a good thing because that shows you that we've got some nice reflectivity. We've got, I'm actually trying to move that light around a little bit. See if I can make it bounce like a thing of pong. Boop, 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 boop. But it shows you that there's nice cover reflectivity, a lot of gloss on this still. So we do have some scuffing right here and some indentations here and here. We've got 1, 2, 3 kind of spine ticks here, and I've actually got a little off the camera there, but there we go. 3 little spine ticks. These corners, this one, we got a little bump here and some abrasion here, some abrasion there, and a very light fold right there. It doesn't break color, but if you hold it in the light just right, I didn't actually see it at first, but if you hold it in the light just right, you can see there's a little fold right there. Look in the back, we've got a little micro tear right here on the top, little tiny tear, and then some blunting where something has impacted the edge here and kind of blunted that in a little bit. The back, though, is nice, and it's nice and white, and that's good. These will sometimes tan up. We always want to look inside, check the paper quality. That is part of the grade. It used to be initially you had 2 separate grades. You had the 1 grade, the Overstreet numeric equivalent, which took the 10-point system from baseball cards and kind of grafted it onto the traditional grading system for comic books. And then there was what they called the OWL, the Overstreet Whiteness Level. So it was originally, back when that system first came out in the early mid-90s, you were supposed to have two different numbers. You would have a 9.4/10, meaning the grade was a 9.4 and the paper quality was a 10, meaning, nice and white. These days, the OWL thing, the whiteness level thing, kind of went away. The CGC cases will list the paper quality below the grade. It's up here in the top left corner, if you've ever seen a CGC case. But otherwise, the paper quality is just sort of incorporated right into the grade. But these are nice. I would say this is kind of off-white to white. Always make sure you check the front, because if anybody's written or signed it or done anything weird, that's where you'll find it. And I've often found, not too long ago, I found a bunch of Teen Titans books that had been signed by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, and found a bunch of X-Men books that had been signed by Chris Claremont. No way of telling. They just came in a collection, had no idea, but those signatures were inside. It was either the real signature or somebody who did a very, very nice facsimile. And so anyway, always make sure you check your centerfold. And in a 32-page comic book, you can just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 should be the centerfold. And there it is. And we can see those staples are nice and tight. That's what you're looking for. Make sure the centerfold's there. Make sure those staples are nice and tight. So, I think I'm going to call this book, now, a very fine book, an 8.0, according to Overstreet, the grading chart, will have between 5 and 7 defects. Well, what is a defect? Well, it's any little tick mark. And, are some defects worth more or less than others? But yes, but that's part of the subjective nature of it. It's not an exact science at all. But we'll say between 5 and 7 defects is a very fine 8.0. And then if you look at a very fine plus, has kind of a wider range, and that's between 4 and 7. So you go between 4 and 7 to 5 and 7, from 8.5 to 8. And then a very fine minus, which is the 7.5, that is going to have, according to the chart, again, that's going to have, say, between 5 and 8 defects. And then you find very fine, your 7.0, that's going to have, say, between 6 and as many as 10 defects. So, do we actually go through and count all of the defects? Well, when you get into the higher grades, the 9s, yes, you will. But here, I'm thinking I'm going to call this a 7.5. And if I just didn't have this scuffing here, I could probably call it an 8. Because we've got just these 3 little ticks here on the spine. The blunting, that very light fold. So that's what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That little micro tear, 9. That blunting, 10. So, we could say it's a 7.0. There are 10 defects. But I think they're all very relatively minor, that I'm going to go with a 7.5. And if we didn't have this scuff here and this little indent down in this corner, I'd be willing to call that an 8. And then if I had, like, maybe one fewer tick and one of these corners was more square, or we didn't have that little micro tear there, I would be willing even to go up to an 8.5. But I'm going to call that a 7.5. That is what I'm going to do on that book. So you let me know if you agree with that. Let me know in the comments below. But I'm calling that a 7.5. And I don't get to upload these in like 1080, because even at this 720, I'm just kind of flipping through and showing you a little bit of that Bernie Wrightson art inside. Being careful not to open it too wide so I don't create inadvertently some additional tick marks on the spine. It's also fun looking at some of the old ads too. That's cool. That's pretty cool. Bernie Wrightson was fun. Yeah, it was fun. But I kind of forgot what I was saying. I really did. I have no idea I'm going to have to rewind, figure out what the hell I was talking about. Second startling issue. But anyway, I'm going to call that a 7.5. So I'm going to put that in my little box right here. Okay, from this point, we're gonna pick up the pace here and go a little quicker because I really don't want this video to be that long. This one's a little nicer. We have some scuffing along the edges here, and a little blunting there. We've got a fingerprint right here in the ink. I don't know how well you can see that. Oh, that's what I started to say. Even at 720, it takes me like literally 7 hours to upload a 25-minute video on the hamster wheel of an internet connection that I have here in Western Maine. And so, I wish I could, so you could really get a good look at this and I could upload this in 1080, but my God, it would take just forever. So this corner is blunted, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We've got quite a few tick marks. Now, they're all pretty light, and you might not even be able to see them. You might not be able to see them, but they're there. And you got to be careful. You got to really watch that. Just the lightest bit of tanning around here on the edge. None of those tick marks are really transverse the spine except for maybe one right there. Most of them are in the front. Of course, here where there's no color to break, and they're harder to see. We have a little blunting right there. We will look inside. Check our centerfold. And our staples are nice and tight. And everything looks good. The Patchwork Man. I think at some point in House of Secrets, the Patchwork Man became an actual kind of quasi-superhero for a while there. There's a little bit of looking inside for you. The hell is that? Is that Sonny and Cher? No, it's Jeanette Riley and Johnny Cash. Never mind. Oh, is that an 8-track tape ad? Oh no, it's a Never Finish High School. Yeah, I don't need to mess with it. Easy Bake Oven. I'm sorry, I'm getting tied up in the ads. Not even the story, it's just the ads. So this one I'm going to go down to a 7. Now it's still a very nice looking copy. It's still highly presentable, but we do have a lot. Even though they're very minor, we've got a lot more ticks here. And like I said, what they count up about 11. Plus we've got this scuffing, which shows up pretty well just because it's all black right here. So that really highlights that. Otherwise, it's pretty good. But I think just because of them, and you also got some scratches here. I don't know how well you can see them. And there's that fingerprint, which you almost don't notice at first. Like inside a bag in a case, you probably wouldn't see that fingerprint at all. But it's there. So I'm going to call that a 7. Put the glasses back on so I can see what I'm doing. Take them back off so I can do what I do. Now this one's pretty nice. Now we do have, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got about 6 ticks right in here. Some stress marks there. And hopefully I can get an angle on that where you can kind of see them, where there's not much glare. But again, if the glare is annoying, just keep in mind that's a good thing. Shows you that there's plenty of reflectivity, plenty of cover gloss. There's this corner's blunted and there's some little indentations there. We've got some scuffing along the edge. This corner's blunted with just the tiniest fold. The back cover, oh, these seeds. I remember these seed ads. Now the back cover looks nice, and there's a lot of reflectivity on this white as well. We've got some little bit of wrinkling here in a few spots. The stress from where the book was opened and closed a few times, but no real tears. Got a letters page. So we're far enough into the series where we're starting to get some letters pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Should be our centerfold. And it is. There's the staples. Nice and tight. All looks good. Boom. So I think that's what I'm going to call a 7 as well. Oh, actually, I think I can call this one a 7.5. Now these tick marks here, because of the dark color, they show up pretty heavily, but they're fairly light still. And there's only about, again, 1, 2, 3, there's like 5 of them. We do have some scuffing, but this still is pretty presentable. Pretty presentable. So if we go by strict overstreet, where we say that a very fine minus could have between 5 and 8 defects, we're probably technically beyond that. But again, you've got to sort of take into account what the defects are. These are pretty light, pretty minor, and that is a very presentable looking book. So I'm going to call that a 7.5. And frankly, with those tick marks, if we just had a straighter corner here, or even here, then I could easily call that an 8. And some people would. Some people would try and sell that to you as an 8, but I'm going to call it a 7.5. Now, if you're really super anal and taking the Overstreet Guide super literally, then you might call that a 7, but I'm going to call it a 7.5. And we'll take a look at this next one. And this is good. We've got really no... Now you have to look carefully because this cover, it's not, it didn't roll, but I mean, it came off the press with the image kind of slid off to the side and cut off a little bit. See how the cent symbol is cut off? You've got no color here because the back cover is white, so it makes it a little harder to see if there are any ticks or stress marks. And we've got a few, like right here and here. And again, they don't break color because there is no color, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 little stresses there that you probably can't even see. And again, part of that will be because I can't really upload this in high enough resolution. Got blunting on that corner. A little sort of indent right there. I don't know if you can see that or not. Hopefully you can. But these edges are fairly, so you got a little tiny fold right here. But the back cover looks pretty good. Nice looking back cover. Nice looking. I always like looking at these old letters pages and seeing if I recognize any of the names, and I don't in this one. Sometimes though you'll see letters that you know were made up. I'll never forget seeing a letter from somebody in Bell City, Maine. Now I've lived in Maine all my life, and there has never been, to my knowledge, a place called Bell City. There's only like 7 actual cities in the state, that are incorporated as cities. Well, actually, it might be 9 or 10 now. But anyway, that's cool. But anyway, sometimes you'll see names that are obviously made up, towns that are made up. So, I think this one I'm going to call an 8. Now, we do have an actual fold right here in this corner. But again, if you're very fine as 5 to 7 defects, being literal, and these little folds here you almost can't even see. And not folds, but stress marks. And that blunting there. So this corner and that corner are about the worst here. Oh, and that little teeny tiny chip right there. But I'm going to call that an 8. And I probably could get away with calling it an 8.5. But if you move it around in the light, you can see, and I don't know how well you can do that, but you can see there's a little bit of wrinkling right in through here. And without that fold there, I would easily call this an 8.5, or that chip, like either one. And some people, like I said, would sell you that as an 8.5. Some people would sell it to you as a 9. Some would call it a 9.4. But I am going to call it an 8. And part of the reason I usually kind of undergrade, I like half a grade anyway, just because once the book leaves me, again, it goes to a lister who will, have a stack of books, so I got to put it into a box, transport it to the lister. The lister takes it out of the box. You know, he slaps it on the scanner and scans the book and does his thing, creates the listing. Then he puts it in a bag and board. It goes into our shipping bins. Sometimes those bins aren't full and they might move around a little bit. The books are packed really well, but even so, sometimes the Postal Service will play rugby with these boxes. Um, and so I like to hedge my bets to make sure that what arrives at your home fairly closely matches the grade. And so I like to account for anything that could happen after it leaves my hands. So usually I will hedge half a grade. So that book that we just looked at that I gave an 8, if I owned my own comic book store and was selling it in the store, I could probably call it an 8.5. But anyway, so we get a fairly significant little tear right there and a couple of little ticks here. This is heavier here along. Well, if I get on the camera, you could see it a little better. But right there, we get some ticks here. But the edges and the corners are nice and straight, nice and square. The back cover looks okay. Well, now we've got some blunting right here where it looks like it was maybe dropped or folded right there. And up here there's a little indent as well. We'll look inside. 1, 2, sea monkeys. 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I miscounted. Nope, it's the next one. Oop. Oh, look, got a nice ad for the shadow. But boom, those staples are nice and neat. Guess I kind of flew right by some of that, didn't I? Boom. There you go. Horror! Horror! What the hell is that? Some kind of intercom system? It's an alarm clock? I don't know what it is. Some piece of 1970s tech. This one, it's not so bad that I'm going to go down to a 6.5, but this corner is pretty ugly, and what kind of makes up for this corner, and again, I hope you can see it there. What makes up for this corner is the fact that the rest of the book, but for one tick right here in the middle of the spine, is really pretty nice, except for a couple of little scuffs right there on that edge. I'm going to give this one a 7 again. And again, I might be able to get away, a 7.5 in person, but with the, the pathways this has to go down to get to your house, if you buy it, I'm going to call it a 7. And these little tick marks here is just every 5 books I put in a backing board into this box. And then I rotate the book so the next stack has the spines on the other side. So that's all that's about. Let's take a look at another one. This one looks pretty nice. We have a line right here, although that looks like it came off the printer like that, off the press. It looks like a roller thing. We got a tick. Again, I got to keep it on the camera. We got a tick right there. Along this top is a little blunted. A little blunting on that corner. A little more blunting on this corner. But the rest of the spine looks nice. Is really, other than there's just one, not many ticks at all. But we do have kind of a parallel stress line right here with the edge blunted a little bit. So something impacted that there at some point. The back looks nice and white. Very straight. Very nice. We've got just a barest little tear up here at the top of the spine, a little blunting, but that is a bindery tear, which we judge much less harshly than a kind of handling tear. And that's kind of like this line here. If this line was something that clearly resulted from opening the book or folding it back, but it looks to me like that line is not from handling, but it's just like a color break as it came off the press. Maybe as the ink roller was rolling around, it didn't quite make a good contact right there. So it's less desirable than a book that is a nice, you know, flat, well, not flat, shiny, but a nice glossy black, as opposed to one that doesn't have that line. But it's not judged as harshly as if it was a handling defect. So centerfold looks good. Boom, boom. A little bit of the inside there for you. The Lurker in Tunnel 13. Swamp Thing always kind of walks like that lumbering walk. Everybody kind of, and I guess they're all kind of copying Wrightston, but they all kind of do that same kind of pose with the walk. So what is this, number 8? I'm actually going to give number 8. So we've got some blunting along this edge too, but I think I'm going to give 8 an 8. I was considering a 7.5, but I think we can call that an, well, I don't know. With a little blunting on the corners here, and then it's just kind of like a long line where it's been kind of rubbed or blunted. So, no, I think I'm still going to go with an 8 on that. And this, number 9, this is an all-time classic cover. This is like the seminal Swamp Thing cover. And again, because the image is shifted a little bit to the side, and actually a little down too. This is not the cover hanging down. That white you see above there is, well, if I can get it on the camera. The white you see above here is actually part of the, oh no, I take that back, it's not. That's actually the page. So the book is shifted a little bit, slightly off center, and then actually printed a little off center this way. But this white here hides any stresses, and there's no actual tears that I can see, but we do have a few stress marks where the book's obviously been read, but no actual tears. A little blunting here, minor blunting there. A few little spots here. I don't know what that is. It's not foxing. Foxing is kind of the start of mold. A little blunt right there, but that's it. But that doesn't really look like foxing to me. It just looks like, I don't know what. Paper's nice and white. So that works to its advantage. These are different sea monkeys. That's a little different than a normal sea monkey ad that you see. But everything looks nice and tight and clean inside. There's a nice little bikini action for you. So there you go. I think this one, again, it's a little shifted this way. I'm going to give this an 8.5. And if it wasn't for that little barest amount of a shift this way, so that along the top you can see the top of the back cover and the pages there, I would be inclined to even give this a 9, possibly a 9 too. But we've got some blunting down here in this corner, and we've got a little bit of color fade here where the color rub, some of that color is rubbed off where people have held onto it a little too closely. But I'm going to call that an 8.5. 8.5, and again, if it was if the book itself was a little more square, I'd go with 9. And you could probably sell it as a 9. You could find that probably on the wall of your local comic book store as a 9.4. But I'm going to call it an 8.5. And here's number 10. This is the last Bernie Wrightston issue. Now we have a little heavier blunting right here where some of the paper is actually rubbed away. You can see that there. 1, 2 little tick marks. We've got a kind of a line there, some kind of indentation. A little blunting here. The top and corner and side is nice and straight. We do have some blunting on this corner. And I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of a indentation with a tiny tear right there. Little tiny tear, like less than 1/8 of an inch. Yeah. We also have some spine abrasion. You can see it right here on the spine, but probably not. Right above this top staple, right where my finger is. I don't know how well you can see it, but there is something has rubbed that spine and actually rubbed away just a little bit of the ink and exposing the paper fibers beneath. These pages are a little close, more to the off-white side, not quite as brilliant as that last one. Nice center spread ad there for you. Boom, boom. So I think, now this one I'm going to give, I think, I'm going to go to a 7. And the biggest things are we've got, and again, if I hold it in the light, you can see a little bit of wrinkling here, but we've got that kind of indent with that line that you kind of immediately see. We've got the paper torn away here at this bottom corner and that impact with a little tear right there. But that's like 3 defects. 4 or 5 in the ticks. That corner is 6. I could probably get away with calling this a 7.5. But I think mainly because of this, with that little tear and the way it's really pushed right up there, I think I'm going to go with a 7 on this. So I really could go with a 7.5. Although we've got some indents here in the back cover too. I don't know how well you can see that. Oh, and that spine abrasion I forgot about. Yeah, with that, I'm going to call that a 7. Going to call that a 7. And this is it. This is the last book. This video went on a lot longer than I thought it was going to. But don't they all? Now this one, we had some very heavy, well, not very, fairly heavy blunting right here, where it looks like maybe the book was dropped in that corner. A little bit of blunting right there. The edge of the cover has got a little fold in it right along here, where the cover extends past the paper. And so it got kind of pressed and folded in. A little fold here down on this corner. Got a tick there at that bottom staple. A little blunting here, bindery tear. Got a little... and you can see the blunting on this side. This corner where, again, it looks almost like it was dropped. And we have a little... You see how you got a little corner there that's kind of hanging on? Kind of torn off, but hanging on. And did I miss the centerfold? I think I did. I just heard that spine snap a little bit, which wasn't really what I wanted to do, was it? But luckily, no harm, no foul. This is Ernie Chawa. I don't know exactly how to say it. On the cover, anyway. And Nestor Redondo on the inside art. But I think this one we're going to go with a 7.5. Well, no, we're going to go with a 7 because, again, we got a little tear, micro tear here with this blunting on both sides. And that thing, it's not going to take very much at all for that to come off. That might even end up popping off the next time it's put in a bag. Although, no, I'm still going to go with a 7.5 on that, because even if, I mean, that's just, you know, even if that comes off, it's just a very little tiny flake, and everything else looks pretty decent and it's pretty presentable. So I'm going to call that a 7.5. So what do you think there, Bubby? Did I undergrade those? Did I overgrade them? Do you think I got it anywhere close to accurate? That's it. That's what I did. But let me know what you think. Let me know, should I continue doing these grading videos? Are they useful to you? Or was it just more than you could bear? Or, you know, let me know in the comments below. Again, do you think I got those grades right? Do you think I was way off in any degree? But otherwise, we'll be back next time with probably another unboxing video. And until then, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other.